November 24th. 30. Eclipse of the Sun in Palestine, accompanied by an earthquake, which overthrew several edifices at Niceas, in Bythinia. By the calculations of several eminent astronomers, it is demonstrated that this great eclipse, which is mentioned by Phlegon, and in the Grecian monuments, as having happened in the 202d Olympiad, took place on this day and year. Phlegon says, the day was changed into night at the 6th hour noon, and the stars were seen. Between Cairo and Jerusalem it was wholly obscured for about 2 minutes, and by calculation, it is supposed, the middle of the eclipse happened at Jerusalem, an hour and 15 minutes after noon. 62. Aulus Persius Flaccus, a Roman satirist, died, aged 28. He was a native of Etruria, studied at Rome, and imbibed the stoic philosophy of Cornutus, to whom he bequeathed his library and 25,000 crowns. His satires, animated and often beautiful, have been translated by several of the British poets. 1213. The possessions of the Knights Templars, in England appropriated by the Crown, in obedience to a papal mandate, in trust for the Knights Hospitallers. Distinguished order was instituted in 1118, and consisted originally of 9 poor knights, who for Christ's love protected the avenues of his shrine from infidels and robbers. 1230. Matthew de Montmorency, Constable of France, died. He distinguished himself on many important occasions in the field, and proved himself equally capable as a statesman. 1516. James V's charter of the town of Maybole, in Ayrshire, Scotland, bears this date. A room in the Red Lion Inn in this town is shown as having been that in which John Knox and the Abbot Kennedy had the debate on the Mass. 1567. The Laird of Erith and the Laird of Wemyss met upon the High Street of Edinburgh, with their followers, when a furious encounter took place, many being hurt on both sides by shots of pistol. 3 days afterwards a strict proclamation was issued, forbidding the wearing of guns or pistols, or an ASIC-like firework engine, under pain of death, the King's Guards and shooters only excepted. 1572. John Knox, the celebrated Scottish reformer, died. He fiercely inveighed against the established religion, and succeeded in reforming the doctrines of the Church in his country. 1638. Quinnipiac, now New Haven, purchased of Monaghan, sachem of the country, in consideration of protection from hostile Indians, and a payment of 12 coats of English cloth, 12 alchemy spoons, 12 hatches, 12 hoes, 2 dozen knives, 12 porringers, and 4 cases of French knives and scissors. 1675. Tea and coffee houses in London permitted by royal proclamation to be reopened, on condition that the keepers should prevent sedition, and the reading of libels in them. 1694. John Tillotson, Archbishop of Canterbury, died, aged 65. He was a popular preacher, who exerted himself strenuously against popery, and was finally elevated to the highest dignity in the Church. 1704. Landau surrendered to the Imperialists after loss of 4,000 men. 1728. Francis Mosclef, a French ecclesiastic, died. A difference in theological opinions from his bishop led to his dismissal. From this time he devoted himself to study with so much application as to bring on a disease that hastened his death. His principal work was a Hebrew grammar, in which he discarded the vowel points and embodied an elaborate argument against them. 1732. Otto Mariliger, a distinguished Prussian painter, died by intemperance. 1751. George Graham, an ingenious watchmaker, died. He was not only the most eminent of his profession, but the best mechanic of his time, and had a complete knowledge of practical astronomy. 1755. Lawrence Ricci, an illustrious Florentine, died. He embraced the order of the Jesuits, of which he was general at the time of its suppression, was imprisoned by the Pope, and died in confinement. 1758. Pittsburgh evacuated by the French. 1759. Fort Duquesne, now Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, taken by General Forbes. 1759. One of the most violent eruptions of Mount Vesuvius ever known, which took place without any of the usual preceding symptoms. 1776. Theophilus Bourdon, an eminent French physician, died. He gained great reputation at Paris, where he published 9 medical works. 1789. Assignats, the name given to paper money, first issued in France. 1790. Robert Henry, a Scottish clergyman, died, author of a history of Great Britain on a new plan. 1814. Treaty of peace signed at Ghent, between the United States and Great Britain. 1819. Champlain Canal declared to be navigable. 1828. Clark Gable, a medical officer and naturalist, who accompanied the embassy of Lord Amherst to China in 1816, died. 1835. William Duane died at Philadelphia, many years editor of the Aurora, one of the most able and distinguished papers which supported Mr. Jefferson in his measures. 1848. Pope Pius IX, after a week's imprisonment in his palace, escaped in disguise to Moedi Gidda. 1852. Walter Forward, an eminent American statesman, died at Pittsburgh, aged 66. He was a native of Connecticut, but achieved his reputation at the West. 1854. The steamer Ocean, from Boston, for the Kennebec, came in collision in Boston Harbor, with the Atlantic steamer Canada, took fire and was destroyed. 1855. Louis Mathieu, Count Mole, formerly Prime Minister of Louis Philippe, died, aged 75. His abilities attracted the attention of Napoleon, and he filled various offices under the different rulers of France till his decease.